My name is Charles, and I learned the hard way that some family members only show up when there's money involved. I was standing at my grandfather's funeral, tears still fresh on my face, when I saw them walk in. My Aunt Linda and her husband Richard, dressed in black like they'd been grieving all along. The sight of them made my blood run cold. "Charles, darling," Linda said, rushing toward me with open arms. "I'm so sorry for your loss. Walter was such a wonderful father." I stepped back before she could embrace me. "Don't." "Excuse me?" she said, her face falling into a practiced expression of hurt. "You heard me," I replied. "Where were you 3 months ago when Grandpa was in the hospital?" Richard cleared his throat. "Charles, this isn't the time or place." "No, I think it's exactly the time and place," I interrupted. "You want to tell everyone here where you were when Grandpa had his stroke? When he was lying in that hospital bed calling out for family?" Linda's eyes darted around nervously as other mourners began to listen. "We were dealing with our own issues. Richard's business." "Save it," I said. "I was there every single day. My sister Sarah was there. Grandpa kept asking about you, Linda. He kept saying, 'Where's my daughter? Why hasn't Linda called?'" "That's not fair," Linda protested. "We sent flowers." "You sent flowers once." Sarah appeared beside me, her voice sharp. "Charles spent 3 months taking care of Grandpa. He took leave from work. He slept in that hospital chair. Where were you?" Richard stepped forward. "Look, we understand you're upset, but we're family. We have a right to be here." "A right?" I laughed bitterly. "You have a right to mourn the man you abandoned?" Linda's mask began to slip. "Walter was my father too, and speaking of rights, we need to discuss his estate. As his daughter, I'm entitled—" "There it is," Sarah said. "That's why you're really here." "I don't know what you're implying," Linda said coldly. "I'm not implying anything," I replied. "I'm stating a fact. You ignored Grandpa for 3 months while he was dying, but the moment you heard he passed, you showed up, not to grieve, to claim inheritance." Richard's face hardened. "We have every legal right to our share of Walter's estate. He was Linda's father." "We'll see about that," I said quietly. Linda's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means Grandpa wasn't as senile as you hoped he was," I replied. "He knew exactly what kind of daughter you turned out to be." "Are you threatening us?" Richard demanded. "No," I said. "I'm promising you that if you try to take anything that belonged to Grandpa, you're going to regret it." After the funeral, Sarah pulled me aside in the parking lot. "Please tell me you have a plan," she said. "I do," I replied. "But I need to make some calls first. They're going to fight dirty, Charles. You know that, right?" "Oh, I'm counting on it," I said. "Let them show their true colors. I've been documenting everything." Sarah's eyes widened. "Everything? Every phone call I made to Linda that went unanswered, every voicemail, every text message, Grandpa's hospital records showing I was his only visitor for 3 months. I even have recordings." "Recordings of what?" "Grandpa's lucid moments," I explained. "The doctor said it was important to document his wishes while he could still communicate, so I did. I recorded him talking about Linda, about how she abandoned him, about how he wanted to change his will." "Did he?" Sarah asked breathlessly. "He tried," I said. "But he had the stroke before he could finalize everything. The will still lists Linda as a beneficiary." "Then how—" "Because there are laws about people who abandon elderly parents," I interrupted. "And I'm going to prove that's exactly what Linda did. She's not getting a dime." The next morning, I sat in the office of Mark Davidson, the best estate attorney in the city. He was reading through the stack of documents I'd brought. "This is impressive, Charles," Mark said, looking up from his reading glasses. "You've documented everything." "I knew this day would come," I replied. "Grandpa talked about Linda constantly. He kept hoping she'd visit, but I knew she wouldn't. Not until there was money involved." Mark tapped a folder. "These hospital records show you as his only visitor for the entire 3 months?" "That's right. Every single day from his stroke until he passed. Sarah came when she could, but she lives out of state. I was the only one there consistently." "And these voicemails?" Mark asked, clicking on his computer. "Let me hear them." I played several recordings, my voice on each one. "Linda, it's Charles again. Grandpa's asking for you. Please call back." Another. "Linda, the doctors say it's getting worse. He really wants to see you." And another. "Linda, I'm begging you. Just come visit him once. That's all he wants." Mark's expression grew grim. "She never responded?" "Not once. I called 47 times over 3 months. I sent 23 text messages. Nothing." "What about Richard?" "I called him too, 12 times. He answered once, said they were too busy, and hung up." Mark leaned back in his chair. "And now they want their inheritance?" "Linda's already contacted probate court," I said. "She's claiming her share as the daughter. She's asking for half of everything. The house, the savings, the investments. We're talking about $800,000. What did your grandfather want? Mark asked. I pulled out my phone and played another recording. Grandpa's weak voice filled the office. Charles, boy, I need you to know something. Linda. She's not coming, is she? My recorded voice. I don't think so, Grandpa. I want to change my will. Everything goes to you and Sarah. Linda made her choice. She chose to abandon her old man when he needed her most. That's not the daughter I raised, my voice again. We'll get the lawyer here tomorrow, Grandpa, I promise. But the recording ended with the sound of medical alarms. That was the day of his second stroke. Mark was quiet for a moment. This is powerful stuff, Charles, but here's the problem. He didn't actually change the will. I know, I said. So what can we do? Mark smiled. There's a legal principle called elder abandonment. In this state, if someone willfully abandons an elderly parent who needs care, they can be disqualified from inheriting. But we need to prove it wasn't just negligence. It was intentional abandonment. I can prove that, I said. Grandpa had medical insurance, but it didn't cover everything. The hospital sent bills to Linda as the next of kin. She never paid a single one. I paid them all. You have receipts? Every single one. $47,000 worth. Mark whistled. She left you to handle everything? She didn't even acknowledge the bills existed. I called her about them 5 times. Voicemails, texts, everything. She ignored all of it. That's financial abandonment on top of emotional abandonment, Mark said. Charles, I think we have a case, a strong one. What's our next move? I asked. We file a petition with the probate court to disqualify Linda from inheriting based on elder abandonment. We'll present all your evidence, the hospital records, the bills you paid, the voicemails, the recordings of your grandfather's wishes. How long will it take? Probably 3 months. Linda will fight back hard. She'll claim she was dealing with health issues, financial problems, anything to justify her absence. She wasn't dealing with anything, I said bitterly. I know because I checked. Richard's business was doing fine. They took a vacation to Hawaii 2 weeks after Grandpa's stroke. Mark's eyebrows shot up. You can prove that. Social media posts. Pictures of them on the beach, drinking cocktails, living their best life while Grandpa was in ICU. Charles, you're making my job very easy, Mark said with a grin. Let's destroy them. 3 weeks later, I got a furious phone call from Linda. How dare you? She screamed into the phone. You're trying to steal my inheritance. I'm not stealing anything, I replied calmly. I'm making sure Grandpa's wishes are honored. His wishes? The will says I get half. That's the law. The law also says people who abandon their elderly parents don't deserve to inherit from them. That's the law too, Linda. I didn't abandon him, she shouted. I was dealing with personal issues. Like your vacation in Hawaii? I asked. The one you took while Grandpa was on life support? There was silence on the other end. Yeah, I know about that, I continued. I know about everything. The unpaid medical bills, the 47 phone calls you ignored, the fact that you couldn't be bothered to visit your dying father even once. You have no idea what I was going through, Linda said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. Then tell the court, I replied. We have a hearing next week. You can explain to the judge why you were too busy drinking Mai Tais in Hawaii to visit your father in the hospital. You're going to regret this, Charles. Richard has connections. We'll bury you in legal fees. Bring it on, I said. I've got nothing to hide. Can you say the same? She hung up. But I knew she wasn't done. The hearing arrived faster than I expected. Linda and Richard showed up with their own lawyer, a slick-looking man named Gerald Peterson. Your Honor, Peterson began, my clients are devastated by these accusations. Linda Stevens loved her father deeply. The suggestion that she abandoned him is not only false, it's cruel. Judge Martinez looked unimpressed. Mr. Davidson, what evidence do you have? Mark stood up. Substantial evidence, Your Honor. First, hospital visitation records showing Charles Thompson visited Walter Thompson every single day for 3 months. Linda Stevens visited 0 times. My client was dealing with severe anxiety, Peterson interrupted. She couldn't handle seeing her father in that condition. Yet she could handle posting vacation photos on social media, Mark replied, pulling out printed Facebook posts. These are from 2 weeks after Walter's stroke. Linda and Richard in Hawaii, at the beach, at restaurants, clearly not too anxious to enjoy themselves. Linda's face turned red. Richard looked furious. Your Honor, there's more, Mark continued. Charles paid $47,000 in medical bills that were Linda's responsibility as next of kin. He called her 47 times asking for help or just asking her to visit. She never responded, not once. I was overwhelmed. Linda suddenly spoke up. I didn't know what to say. You knew what to say when you found out about the inheritance, I said from my seat. You showed up to the funeral real quick then. Mr. Thompson, the judge warned, but I could see she was listening. Mark played the recording of Grandpa expressing his wish to change his will. The courtroom fell silent as we heard his weak voice talking about Linda's abandonment. When it finished, Judge Martinez looked at Linda. Mrs. Stevens, did you visit your father at all during his final 3 months? I couldn't, Linda stammered. But you could go on vacation. That was planned months in advance. You could have canceled it, the judge said flatly. You could have visited your dying father instead of posting beach photos online. Mr. Davidson, what else do you have? Text messages, Your Honor. Charles sent 23 texts to Linda begging her to visit or at least call her father. She never responded. He also sent texts about the medical bills. Again, no response. Peterson tried to recover. Your Honor, grief affects people differently. This isn't about grief, Counselor. Judge Martinez interrupted. This is about willful abandonment of an elderly parent in need of care. I've seen enough. Judge Martinez's ruling came down like a hammer. Based on the evidence presented, I find that Linda Stevens willfully and intentionally abandoned her father, Walter Thompson, during the last 3 months of his life. She failed to visit him, failed to communicate with him, failed to provide financial support, and failed to respond to numerous requests for assistance from Charles Thompson. Linda's face went pale. Richard grabbed her hand. Furthermore, the judge continued, the evidence shows that Mrs. Stevens' absence was not due to legitimate hardship, but rather to indifference and selfishness. Taking a vacation while your father lies dying in a hospital shows a callous disregard for familial responsibility. Your Honor, please, Peterson tried to interject. I'm not finished, Counselor. Under state law governing elder abandonment and inheritance rights, I am disqualifying Linda Stevens from receiving any portion of Walter Thompson's estate. The entire estate will be divided between Charles Thompson and Sarah Thompson, who demonstrated genuine care and devotion to their grandfather. This is outrageous, Richard shouted, jumping to his feet. Sit down, Mr. Stevens, or I'll hold you in contempt, Judge Martinez said coldly. Your wife made her choices. She chose a vacation over her dying father. She chose to ignore bills, phone calls, and pleas for help. Those choices have consequences. Linda burst into tears. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You're sorry now that you've lost $400,000, I said quietly. You weren't sorry when Grandpa was calling out for you in that hospital bed. The judge gavelled the decision final. This hearing is adjourned. Mr. Davidson, please prepare the final distribution paperwork. Outside the courtroom, Linda tried one last time. Charles, please, we can work something out. I'll admit I was wrong. Just give me something. No, I said firmly. Grandpa wanted you to have nothing, and that's exactly what you're getting. Nothing. We're family, she pleaded. Family shows up, Sarah said, appearing beside me. Family doesn't wait until someone dies to pretend they care. You're heartless, Richard spat at us. No, I replied. I'm exactly what Grandpa taught me to be, someone who honors commitments and stands by the people I love. You should try it sometime. Mark pulled me aside as Linda and Richard stormed off. Charles, there's one more thing. Linda and Richard might try to appeal. Let them, I said. We have the evidence. We have the law. They have nothing but excuses. Actually, Mark said with a smile, I did some digging. Richard's business, it's in debt. They were counting on this inheritance to save it. Without it, they're ruined, I finished. Completely. They'll probably have to declare bankruptcy within 6 months. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. Grandpa spent his last days wondering why his daughter abandoned him. He died heartbroken because Linda couldn't be bothered to visit. She deserved everything she got. 2 months later, Sarah and I stood in Grandpa's house, our house now. We'd decided to keep it, to preserve his memory properly. He'd be proud of you, Sarah said, looking at Grandpa's photos on the wall. I just did what was right, I replied. He deserved better than what Linda gave him. Still, Sarah said, you fought for him even after he was gone. That takes courage. I smiled, remembering Grandpa's words from that recording. Linda made her choice. She did make her choice. And choices have consequences. She chose money over her father, vacation over his bedside, and convenience over compassion. Now she had to live with those choices. No inheritance, no family, no redemption. The house was worth $500,000, the investments another $300,000. Sarah and I split everything equally, just as Grandpa wanted. We used some of the money to create a scholarship fund in his name for nursing students, people who actually cared about taking care of the elderly. Linda never contacted us again. I heard through mutual friends that Richard's business collapsed and they had to move to a smaller house across the state. I felt no sympathy. They made their bed. Now they could lie in it. Justice isn't revenge. Revenge is emotional, impulsive, destructive. Justice is methodical, evidence-based, and permanent. I didn't destroy Linda. She destroyed herself. I just made sure the consequences caught up with her. Have you ever had a family member who only showed up when they wanted something? Someone who abandoned a loved one but expected to benefit from their death? What would you have done in my situation? Like and subscribe for more stories about people who refused to be victims and fought back the right way.